Hi, I'm Joel Annesley and welcome to this video. Today we're talking about how you can change your life by writing your first book. And I'm very excited to be taking you behind the scenes from a recent 2-day writing workshop that I attended with writing coach Jane Turner from writewithjane.com and Leanne Rogers, who is a fellow writer. So in this panel discussion, we're talking about some of the mindset challenges that you might face along the way, and also some of the key things on how you can get started using a simple and easy method. Well, hello, I'm Joel Annesley, and I'm here with Jane Turner and Leanne Rogers. We're here today writing with Jane.
We are.
We're having a great time, aren't we?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Both in terms of how much we're all getting done and, how good we are in terms of just as a collective. And it's that group energy that really works, isn't it? And we're a small group. This is my mastermind group. But, wow, we're getting there in a big way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I thought in today's video or podcast, it'd be really good to dive into this idea of the power of writing your own book and how writing a book can absolutely change your life.
Yeah.
So, I think if we talk about your background or experience just for a few minutes, how you got on that journey.
Absolutely. Well, look, I'm a refugee, if you like, from the public service. I was employed by the government for my whole working life up to the age of 52. Then, a perfect storm of events happened. I was A, made redundant, B, went into menopause, and C, my daughter was going into adolescence. So there was all the hormones flying around, the financial stress, the general loss of identity that I experienced then. And I had a little plan hatching, knowing what was about to happen in terms of the redundancy, and knowing that I had a small passion project on the side, which is my little coaching practice called the Wellness Coaching Collective. And my idea was that I would write a book to increase my credibility and authority and build that up to be known as a coach now. And because of the life phase I was in and knowing how women in that area are to one extent stigmatized and to another extent, struggling on their own with smatterings of information, but I figured they were a hungry crowd, underserviced. So I thought, okay, I'm going to put myself through a wellness program because my self-care hadn't been great. Put myself through a wellness program that I would then document how I went with that and release this as a book. And then it happened. There was Thrive in Midlife. Now the idea was to then attract women in that life phase into my coaching practice. And I used the book to leverage publicity, and that worked like I could not have imagined. I was in the Australian Women's Weekly, and this was a major profile piece. Australian Women's Weekly, Prevention Magazine, ABC Radio, Today Extra program on television. So I actually hit all the main markets where women in that life phase were going to be hanging out, as it were. And actually morphed myself, changed. The person I was no longer the person who fit into a small box. I needed a big box. And that in its own way was just so amazing to look back on and see how that happened. How did that happen? And really, if I can summarize quickly what was an amazing personal journey, and it is clearly a hero's journey, and coming to terms with Joseph Campbell's great book, Hero of a Thousand Faces, brought me to a place where I realised that I'd been playing small my whole life, that I had been hitting against that transition point and resisting the transition point to become, to evolve. We are on the planet to evolve. And writing the book gave me nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. And that experience, not to mention some clearly cathartic moments, but that experience is the one that I want you guys and my other writers, and not everybody does this intensive deep dive weekend workshop. It's a bespoke program that I run because it doesn't suit everybody. Some of my clients don't live in Sydney. But I notice already how much transition you two have had.
We really have.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But what
I'd love to hear.
Oh, definitely.
Is it
Well, it's
right for you to talk right now about it? I'd
Yeah.
love you to.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you mentioned that when you're writing a book, there really is nowhere for you to run and hide. You're putting yourself out there onto this piece of paper or the laptop or whatever it is, and you're reflecting back, and it's just this really eye-opening experience where you go, oh shit, this is really who I am, you know, this, and you're getting to know yourself in the process, and I think that's a really powerful thing, and, you know, it's important to take the ups and downs with that as well, and just embrace the emotions that you go through.
Yeah.
Well, essentially you're putting your heart and soul out onto paper,
It's true.
and sometimes that is a very hard thing to do. So I think, you know, it's writing a book is not an overnight thing. It's a journey.
That's right.
And I think for some it can take, you know, months. For some it can take years.
Oh yes.
And for some they just don't get it
Never
across
happens.
the line.
That's it. That's it.
So for my own journey, when I think about writing a book, I've had a lot of mindset stuff that has come up for me in the past. You know, thoughts like, am I good enough to write a book? Do I know enough to write a book? And I think that's probably very common sort of thoughts that we all face.
Yes.
And I thought it'd be really good to get your perspective on that, Jane. If somebody is saying, you know, I wish I could write a book.
Ah, yes. I would say, what are the barriers? What's stopping you from writing a book? And in fact, this is what I came to terms with myself. I'm only here. I only get it because I've done it. And the whole thing with the first book about my experience of menopause, it was, well, who wants to read your book when Christiane Northrup has written a book this fat about it? And then, you know, what do? We hold ourselves to that standard and we think, oh my God. But in fact, what I found, that a book of about 125 pages, 150 pages, you know, is a perfect sized book for a sort of a how-to. Mine was a how to be well through midlife. So there was one thing that I could have been derailed with. There's the, what if people don't like it? You know, what if, and it reminds me of Brene Brown's great book, Daring Greatly, where she talks about stepping into the arena. And I've done the Daring Greatly program with one of her facilitators in Sydney, and we went through and we looked at the arena. Who's in the arena? Who's going to be throwing the tomatoes at us? Who are our supporters? You know, oh, it's a powerful piece of work.
Very powerful.
That's a powerful piece of work.
Yeah.
But then you look at it and you think, and how would it feel to have a tomato land on you? And then you go, you know, well, it's not going to kill me, is it? And anyway, who is going to throw the tomato?
You're throwing tomatoes at yourself.
So
in the
it's
process.
that internal critic, and you know, if you come to terms with that, not only can you write a book, you can do a whole lot of other things. You can go on Today Extra, an introvert who never talked about their parts of themselves they didn't like, then wound up writing about the parts of themselves they didn't like. And that's the stuff that connects with people because it's real.
From a really
Guys,
authentic place, isn't it?
And when you spoke about, Joel, that, you know, the journey of it and that it's taking time because you're exposing parts of yourself that you may not have even recognised yourself.
That's right.
Those are the books that people will actually not just read the introduction and then never come back to. Those are the books that people read.
So that's a really good insight, and I wanted to just share the experience when I got started with, you know, making that
coming to actually make the decision that I'm going to write a book, despite all that mindset crap that was going on in my head, I said, I'm going to actually make a commitment to myself. I'm going to do this for me and my audience. But the thing that, touching on what you just said before, that the first struggle I had was I went to Amazon and I looked at all the other books within the niche and I went, it's all been done before. How could I possibly produce something? I'm just a nobody. I'm not, I'm the unknown hero at this point in time. And nobody knows about my story. I haven't, this is my first book, right?
Yes,
so I'm not leveraging an existing platform, and I think that, that's one of the scariest things is when you're approaching this from a position of being the unknown.
Can I jump in?
Yes.
And say how real is that, and what's real, and how did John DeMartini find you to ask you if you could interview him? How did that happen, Joel?
It's amazing.
How about that? So these are the stories we tell ourselves.
That's right.
And I will later this year be launching a new book called Mindset for Authors: How to Overcome Perfectionism, Procrastination, and self-doubt. I was going to say self-belief because I'm always talking about self-belief, but it's how to overcome self-doubt because we all have it. Brene Brown would have had it. Believe me, Brene Brown would have had it. Elizabeth Gilbert would have had it. Yeah, sorry, you jump in.
But I think we talk about it as though, this person would have it. What if they still do, but they've actually learned how to manage it and they've become accepting of that emotion?
Exactly.
And it's not something that was in the past, it's just they've overcome that and now they know how to deal with it when it does arise.
They know what it is and it doesn't define them anymore. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Would you like to share, and you don't have to, what you arrived to our first meeting with?
It's brilliant. It's I look back and I laugh. I met Jane through some work I was doing in my day job. I work as an employment relations, work at an employment relations firm, and I was giving a talk about employment relations with small businesses, and Jane just happened to be at this event, and we did this activity, 30-second pitches, where we all sat in groups and perfected our pitch. So we essentially got exposure to every other individual in the room, and Jane's pitch was quite compelling, and she went on to then the final and presented to the whole room again. And I thought, no, I need to get Jane's number. I've been writing all my life, mostly just for myself and never stuff that I wanted to share, but actually I've got a lot of content. And so Jane and I went for tea one day in Erskineville, and I remember sitting out there and I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be interesting, this is nervous. But what I actually brought with me was a big black shoebox full of all these raw notes from some of my deepest depression phases. And we sat there and we sort of looked through a little bit of it and realized there's all this stuff here. You've got a book. It's just now about putting that into a logical order, and that's what Jane's helping me do.
And what worried me at the time is that people can drown themselves in notes. And this was something that I knew that wasn't the only box. So there were boxes and boxes. And the thing about the hero's journey is that you're answering the call to adventure, and it might be the call to run a marathon. It might be. It's not always about writing a book, of course, but your call to adventure was,
Write a book.
And your notes were actually stopping you from answering the call, you see. So it was about feeling confident. And where did the confidence come from? Was about not being alone anymore.
Absolutely.
You see, and it's not this, again, there's no one size fits all, and that's why I have a bespoke program that for some people it just takes 90 minutes one-on-one with me. For others, this is what works.
Yes.
Coming here, being accountable, because lack of accountability is one of the things that stops people. There's forever. So I won't start today. I won't start tomorrow. When I'm on holidays, I'll do it. And then when you're on holidays, you're meant to be having a holiday. So you wind up having a holiday, and all of the endless tomorrows.
Absolutely.
But this was you stepped up because you're hooked onto something that would give you accountability and give you structure.
Absolutely.
Because that's not easy. You haven't written a book before. You've written some brilliant articles. There's no question that you're a great writer. But it gave you structure, it gave you support, it gave you accountability, it gave you a process of how to start, where to start, what to do next, and how to get published.
Definitely.
Now, you can, that how to get published part of it as well, you can research that. Anyone can find that out. Anyone can make the calls to know that you're not going to keep battering your head against a brick wall whenever it comes time to look at options with self-publishing, with hybrid options, with how to pitch to established publishers, really, and we've got some in mind.
We've got some really good ones in mind.
Just knowing how to really fast-track that process too.
Absolutely.
That doesn't then blow out and cost you time, because that can be really, really frustrating. When you finish the book, I don't have anybody going, now what? You've already we've got the strategy ready before that happens.
And I think one of the big things from my perspective as well is whether you're writing a book or doing anything new for the first time in your life.
Sure.
It's very scary if you're just doing it alone.
Yes.
And you are faced with that constant mindset chatter, can I do this? So I think one of the things I was looking for is seeking out somebody who had already been on the journey.
Sure, yeah.
Who, could give me that confidence that, this is something that is achievable. And these are the steps you need to take.
Yeah.
But also having that accountability built in, I think, is very, very crucial. I'm very much aware of that. Your environment is everything.
Yes.
If you're just writing at home and you've got the TV on in the background and you've got all these different distractions, you're going to find that your progress is really going to be halted. So I've found, writing with Jane has been a fantastic experience, and I think I've really been given that push that I've needed to have to really to make that commitment. Like we're often dipping our toes in the water, reluctantly going, oh, maybe I can do this. Maybe. Yeah. So I think that's the mindset that I've gone through, saying, no, this is the commitment, I'm going to make it happen.
Yes.
Definitely resonate with that as well.
In terms of spaces, the place to write, big shout out to City of Sydney, actually, because we are in one of their creative spaces that they've set up in the let me get my directions right. This is the western end of Oxford Street in Darlinghurst. I've got that right, haven't I? This is eastern suburbs that way.
Yeah.
We're at the western end of Oxford Street. In other words, we're right near Hyde Park in the City of Sydney creative space at 66 Oxford Street. So every month, end of every month, I should say the last weekend of every month, we have the 2-day deep dive intensive writing workshop, and there's something about this space.
It's very powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What I wanted to just dive a little bit deeper into, if somebody loves the idea of writing a book, but doesn't know where to start.
Yep.
So, for example, I know you cover in one of your introductory seminars. You outline the process. But if you were to because I know we don't have forever on this video.
Yes.
But if you were to maybe sum it up, like some of the key steps that they could take just to get
started. Absolutely.
What would you say to them?
Well, and the very first question I ask my clients is, why are you writing the book? From your own perspective, what do you want to achieve from the book? You are both transitioning from being employed people to running your own businesses, and this is your vehicle to build your profile and launch your business. And that was in my own case as well. Other people are writing legacy books. They want their story documented. They've overcome great adversity of some kind, and they want to inspire people like themselves. Other people are doing it for healing and my God, it's a healing, it can be a very, very healing tool as well. So be very clear about why you're writing the book, and then envisage your reader. Why is your reader then going to be wanting to read the book? If you get those two perspectives aligned, you will save a lot of wasted energy and uncertainty from your own point of view. Just whenever you've got to remember back, and then make a short video of yourself. Just imagine that you are talking to your prospective reader and you're telling them what they will get from reading your book. And you want to address the 4 key learning styles. And I borrowed this from Bernice Murphy's, gosh, I hope I've got her name right. Anyway, it's the format system. It's the number 4 and then MAT. And it's about learning systems. So it's about, you've got your why learners, your what learners, your how learners, and your what if learners. So you want to be able to answer the questions that even unconsciously those readers are going to be asking before they'll buy your book. And they're going to want to know, if they're a why learner, why do I want to read this book? What's in it for me? What will I get out of it? A what learner is going to want to know, well, what specifically is in this book? You know, and the what, sometimes the why and the what's hard to get a handle on, but the what is, oh, let's say it's a book about losing weight. Well, they might be getting healthy recipes. They might be getting statistics about what works and what doesn't. They might be getting information on latest research. So that's the sort of the what. The how is, how learners want to know, well, how do I make this work for me? I think that's straightforward enough, hopefully, but it's things like, if you read this book with an open mind and a preparedness to change, you'll find that it is much easier to take on board behaviours that you might find stuck in at the moment. And, you know, it's that kind of language you want to say to make the most out of your reading experience. You know, what learners, you know, what you will find in this book is how learners want to hear. I tell you this, you know, I share this information with you because, and then the what if learner is just the flip side of the why learner. They might need to hear something like, I know how hard it is to change your behaviour around X, Y, and Z, because I struggled with that myself for years. But then when I finally did make the change and got over my resistance, the benefits for me were huge. And what I want for you is to experience the same thing. So does that, I know it makes sense to you guys, because that's the way you're unpacking your information. I hope it does make sense to your listeners, Joel.
Well, just just an insight on that, or my personal reflection. It's often, you know, you've got this great, you might come up with a great idea for your book, but sometimes you get stuck on, how do I actually get started?
Yes.
You know, like, do you open up your computer and just start writing?
The lucky few.
Yeah, the lucky few.
Consecutively.
But what I learned through Jane's program is, you know, following that model, doing that for overall your book, and then fleshing out each chapter.
Yes.
It gives you everything you need ready to actually start writing. So you've got everything planned out and ready to go. I found that very, very powerful. And you know, if you're struggling with it, having a call with Jane was really, really insightful, because you've got that coaching relationship where, you know, it really helps you to go to that deeper level that you wouldn't necessarily do on your own.
This is right.
It's that breakthrough sometimes you need. Because we're talking about the stuff inside your head, you know, and
and the beauty of it is that languaging it in that way and you know, writing it in that way lands with a much bigger audience than it would otherwise. But what's more, it actually gives you access to more information than you would.
Yes.
A lot of the stuff that you're just assuming everybody knows, because that's your learning style. You can work both ways. It can either be that you're forgetting to say important stuff because it's so obvious to you, because that's your learning style. And on the other hand, that you're potentially not addressing the other learning styles properly either, because you're just not even considering it. You don't think people think that way necessarily. So I love this stuff, and I have, this is not my intellectual property. In full disclosure, I learnt this on my journey, and I've done various writing programs as well. So this is the amalgamation of everything running around in my head, the whole hero's journey, stumbling on that in my coaching training. So we come to a point where we finally know what we need to know to get something important done, and that's what I'm so happy to be able to share with other people now.
So I think that's a really good tip in itself. Essentially, that don't think when you write you have to create new knowledge. This feeling of I have to create something that hasn't been done before. And that's the challenge I think a lot of us face. And when we can get beyond that to realise, a lot of the concepts out there will be, in one shape or another. It's just, all we have to do is put it in our own voice.
Absolutely.
And I think this is the journey. It's all about, thinking about the message that we would love to share. It's really close to our heart. Who we would like to connect with, and think about how you can share it. The type of stories that you'd like to, to share with your audience. So,
And that really ties into what we were talking about the other day about, are you speaking from experience or are you speaking from expertise? And a lot of writers, particularly when they've got these perfectionistic traits, go, well, I need to know everything about this topic before I start writing, and so they got bogged down in the research process. And that's where imposter syndrome kicks in, because there's always going to be someone that's got more academic accolades or more experience than you and more knowledge, but what makes your story unique is the fact that only you know what it is. And so you're essentially the expert in your own experience, and that's important to take away from.
Lovely.
To get rid of that myth that, or the mindset challenge, and this is something that I've had, that you're either too young to write a book, you don't know enough.
That's one I never had. As I wrote my book about midlife. It's funny.
Or that feeling that I've missed the boat, I could have done this years ago. That's another one that you can get rid of, because, regardless of where you are on your journey, we just have to make the most of now.
That's it. That's a beautiful point, isn't it? Yeah.
So, and that's what we're doing this weekend.
Good.
And I think the more that we share, the more that we work together, our own stories get stronger. And that's really the advantage of what we've got, instead of just doing this alone.
Absolutely. It's great. So writewithjane.com. If you've got a book bubbling away that you just don't think you can do it on your own, well, you don't have to, is the point.
I hope you got tons of value from that discussion and excited to start writing your first book. Hey, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more updates.